It is Friday, May the 8th of 2020. And are you guys ready for some football? I'm ready for some football. We're going to talk about that today on Guy's Daily Drive. And welcome back to Guy's Daily Drive, the show that continues to ask the burning question: should someone do a live cast in their car while driving down the street? I think I know the answer to that one. I know that there's several shows that do like interviews with celebrities and all that, sometimes with comedians, depending on, there's other shows that do this, certainly much more famous than mine. The difference, though, is most of those shows are kind of faked. The people that are in the cars aren't really driving. You can see that the car is moving, but the car is typically on a platform, and someone else is driving, and and not always, but a lot of times, and it's mostly for, and I get it, it's mostly for liability issues. There are so many ways things could go wrong while doing a live cast in the car. One thing that I'm very, very careful about is making sure that no matter what it is that I'm doing as far as the live cast goes, that I'm paying attention, a lot of attention, to driving. It's not really that much different than talking to somebody that if they were sitting next to me or in the seat behind me. I don't think it's really any more distracting than that. At least that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. But that's what I wanted to talk about, at least this morning, was football. And by football, I mean American football. Not that European, it's not even European, it's the rest of the world. We're probably the only country in the nation that calls it soccer. Even the large league that we have for playing world football, soccer, is, the Major Soccer League, MSL, MSL, or MLS, Major League Soccer, it's one of those two. Everybody else calls it football. But if you're talking to American, we're talking American football, and that's the NFL. Well, they had their draft, and all the college players that they hope will soon become superstars have been signed to teams. Lots of other players who may develop into superstars but weren't signed up in the draft were signed on to teams after the drafts were over as free agents. And like every year, there will be some players that do really, really well, some players that are total busts right out of the gate, other players that don't work out, not necessarily because they don't have the skills, but because they're just they're on the wrong team. And this happens a lot with quarterbacks. You'll have a quarterback that just was amazing in college, and then he gets drafted by the NFL, and it's typically, if you're if you're a first round quarterback pick, chances are you did really, really well in the NFL, in college, and especially like in the first 10 rounds or the first 10 picks, you're being picked by a team that probably had not such a great year and are looking for a quarterback to turn things around. And I've never really understood that as a concept, because NFL teams are literally a team sport. You couldn't have a quarterback that could carry the load of a team all by himself. You couldn't have a running back. You couldn't have a linebacker. You couldn't have defensive backs. You couldn't have corners, cover men. Any of the positions that are on the field, and especially the so-called skilled positions, which, if I was a offensive or defensive lineman, I would find that insulting. Mostly because NFL teams with offense or defense literally lives by their offensive or defensive lines. If you have a good offensive line, your offense is probably going to do pretty well. Most of the receivers that come out of college that are picked by teams are picked because they can catch the ball. They can run good routes. They run crisp routes. Same thing with quarterbacks. These guys are all good athletes. For the most part, if they're not running for their lives because they don't have a good offensive line, make pretty good decisions. And, all the way down the line, the so-called skilled positions. These are all superior athletes. And they did well in college because they were well coached and superior athletes. But then you put them on a team that doesn't have, let's say, take a receiver. You're a receiver and you're on a team that doesn't have a really good offensive line, and as soon as the ball is snapped, your quarterback is literally running for his life. And the moment that a quarterback has to start running, if he's not throwing out of the pocket, he's not going to be as accurate. He's not going to make all the best decisions because he has to get the ball out of his hands. He doesn't want to take a sack. So if you're a receiver, you may not be getting that many balls thrown to you, especially as a rookie. He's almost always going to go toward the guys that he's most comfortable with. Same thing with quarterbacks. If the moment you take the ball, you've got a linebacker or a lineman coming screaming at you right from the line of scrimmage, well, you're going to go into panic mode, and you're just not going to do that well. That's how it works. On the defensive side of the ball, your defensive line, if it's good, if you have a good defensive line, you can force running backs and halfbacks to have to go outside. They won't be able to run straight up the middle. And that's on a running play. That's what defensive linemen are supposed to do. They clog the interior so that you as a running back or a halfback can't get through to the next level. So they have to bounce outside. Once they bounce outside, that's where the linebackers, the first line of skilled positions in defense, have to cut off access, have to string the play out. And if you only get 1 or 2 yards on a pitch or on a running back, halfback that ran outside, well, then your offensive line and your linebackers have done a good job. And the same thing with guys that fall back into coverage against the pass. If you have a good defensive line that doesn't have to blitz on almost every single play in order to put pressure on the quarterback, then that makes it easier for you as a cover guy. Because, here's the thing. It doesn't matter how fast you are or how good of a cover guy you are, the advantage is always going to be for the receiver, because you can't, once you get past 5 yards, you can't touch him. And God forbid you bump into him, even accidentally, once you go past that 5 yards, or once the ball is in the air, you're going to get flagged for that every single time. So as a cover guy, you look brilliant and your stats look great if you have a defensive line that can keep the quarterback running around, or if it forces him to run at all. So what are you going to do? It really comes down to, with NFL teams, when they talk about skilled positions, on the offense they're talking about quarterbacks, receivers, halfbacks, tight ends, and receivers. I said that already. On the defensive side, you've got all your cover guys, all your various cover guys, and linebackers. And the offensive line and defensive lines are they're not talked about. Nobody, very few people are like, wow, boy, that right tackle, he's really something. They weren't able to do that play because they blocked up the offensive line. No, they'll talk about whoever it was that made the tackle. It's like the guy bounces outside, gets a couple of yards, and the linebacker gets him. Well, they're not going to talk about how the defensive line forced the running back / halfback to have to run outside so that the play gets strung out. No, they're going to talk about the linebacker, or if you're lucky, a right or left tackle that's on the end that happened to be able to get the guy before he was able to get to the second level on the field, the second level of the play on the field. It's hard to string words together sometimes when you're driving. So if you look at teams that are successful, don't be looking at the Tom Brady's or the Dan Marinos, how far back you want to go, the Roethlisbergers, the Mahomes, all the rest of that. Look and see how long each of these teams that have any real success in the NFL, how long they've had their offensive and defensive lines together as a unit, and how well those lines are coached. Those are the teams, the ones with good offensive and defensive lines, those are the teams that consistently make the playoffs year after year and have the best chance for success in the NFL. Okay, well, it's weird. That really wasn't what I was going to talk about with football, but we went there. So if you'd like to get a hold of me and contradict anything that I just said, you can reach me through email, guy@mymac.com. I'm on the Twitters, twitter.com/MacParrot or VertShark. If you would like to, if you would like to help donate for all the things that I pay for in relation to the different podcasts that I do, which include not only Guy's Daily Drive, but also the MyMac.com podcast, and that's mostly covered by Tim Robertson, or the Mac to the Future Go livecast I do on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. You can become a Patreon, and I'm getting ready to put some extra stuff for Patreons only up there. I've got one thing up there. It's a little audio file called When I'm Dead. And by the way, thank you, Owen, for your comment on that. I appreciated it. It was funny. You can go to patreon.com/MacParrot. You can go to coffee.com, ko-fi.com/MacParrot, or paypal.me/MacParrot. That's all the various ways that you can help contribute to the things that I do. And I do greatly appreciate all of you that do so. So that's going to do it. Thank you all so very, very much if you've joined me here live or if you're going to watch or listen to this later on. It's greatly appreciated. And I will see you all next time on Guy's Daily Drive, probably this afternoon.